And all these experiences of even those who are sinners and refuse to accept God, their experience goes into the supreme, so that what happened in their life is not lost. It adds to the experience of the supreme. But they never have consciousness as a being again, ever. Okay? It's absorbed in the universe. Okay, now that's one way to get to the mansion world. On the third day after you die, your guardian angel takes your soul, meets your thought adjuster back on that first mansion world, and they present a brand new, what's called Urantia body. It's different than this body, but it's a vessel just like this body is. And your personality and your soul, that which makes you who you are, is inserted into this new body along with what? Your father fragment if you've not fused, and all that experience that came from your mind goes back into this body. So when you wake up, it's as if you never died, right? So death is like walking through a door. You go from one type of being to another immediately.
So you just start living in a new dimension.
You start living literally in a new dimension. Yeah. And to the angels, the new dimension is the real world. To the angels, the human life is just a shadow. It's a vestibule to your real life, which is your Urantia life. You know why they call it Urantia? Because it's in between finite and spiritual. So you start in this Urantia form and you go through 490 changes over time as you progress up.
A long time.
It's a long time. You go through all the mansion worlds, you go to the system capital, and when you've done all this, you eventually stand before Jesus. Okay? And when you stand before Jesus, all you want to hear is one thing. Guess what that is? Well done, my good and faithful servant. And what that gives you is your first spiritual license. You become a first stage spirit. The type of being that Michael is right now. Okay? From there, you go on traveling through the different departments of this super universe. All these rings, there's 1 billion worlds on these rings. You go through every single one of them. You go through the minor sector of the super universe. You go through the major sector of the super universe. You stand before the Ancients of Days, those that judged you so many millenniums before. And then you get the license to travel to the first ring of Havona. Okay? And when you get to that first ring of Havona, by that time you have become a fourth stage spirit. Okay? And as you progress through these rings, you go higher and higher and higher. When you get to the point where you actually stand before God the Father, and you recognize God the Father, guess what stage you are? Sixth stage spirit. At that point, you become, God gives you a gift and makes you what's called a finaliter. And a finaliter basically has gone the whole way from the outer universes to paradise and certifies himself as a son of God all the way through, without fail, without rebellion. Okay? Now, why are we not seventh stage spirits up here? Because God's got a plan for us. He's still working on 4 super universes out here. Do you think it might be possible that He's got a plan for us to help administer these outer space levels? It's a big question. You know?
I think we gotta ask for questions.
Yeah.
Yes.
Let me mention one other thing before I did that. I told you there were 2 ways to get to the mansion world, didn't I? If you remember in the New Testament, they talk about the dead rising en masse. Do you remember that from the New Testament? Well, that's true. Every millennium, and a millennium can be anywhere from 1,000 years to 10,000 years. It varies. A son of God is sent to the planet to waken those who are sleeping. Now, why are they sleeping? Because these are the persons that could not make the decision to follow God in their life. Right? They did not reach that third psychic circle. Okay? So those beings wait to be resurrected and awakened en masse and taken to the mansion worlds because of why? They become remedial students on the mansion worlds. And they bring them in mass so they can teach them all the same time. Where you, as a third psychic circle spirit, or Urantia being, will start your progression from there. But these people that come in mass have to stay on that first mansion world until they get to a certain point where they can understand spiritual concepts. Okay? And what's part of our job when we get to the mansion world?
To teach them.
We have to teach them. That's right. Everything you learn, you have to turn around and teach those who come behind you. And that way, the celestial beings know you've learned your lessons through experience.
By teaching.
By teaching. Yeah. Work?
Good stuff.
Works pretty good. All right, now, I could go on and on and on and on for hours. But
Please do.
Yeah, I know. I was
Go.
I can listen
Keep
for
going. Keep going. Gosh, this is excellent. Yes.
It's a lot to it.
It's a lot to absorb.
One question I have, and that would be, it mentioned that Lucifer was in charge of 607 inhabited worlds.
Right. Which are now 619.
More?
Yeah.
We're constantly growing.
We're growing. They're becoming inhabited constantly. There's 619 now. So there were only that many when he started. Lucifer was in charge of Satania for 500,000 years. Okay, along with Satan. Satan was Lucifer's first lieutenant, and they both were wonderful administrators, great beings, and all that thing. The thing of it is, to understand Lucifer, you need to know the sons of God. And let me explain what those are. Remember when I said Christ made 7 bestowals? For every type of being that him and the local universe Mother Spirit created, he had to do a full life of that type of being from birth to death. Okay? Some of them are made totally adult beings when they're made. So those, he started out as a full adult. It was only on earth that he started out as a babe in the manger, okay, which is kind of special in itself. But the other types of beings that him and the universe Mother Spirit made were called Verandadek sons, and these are what's called the Most Highs of Urantia, okay? And it says, I believe it even says this in the New Testament or the Old Testament, that the Most Highs rule in the realms of men. And they do. It's the Most Highs that are in charge of making sure that what happens, like with Lucifer, doesn't happen on a planet. Okay? So that's called Verandadek sons. The next type of son is called a Lananandek son.
Spell that.
L-A-N.
Uh-oh.
L-A-N-A-N. N-O-N-D-E-K, I believe. You can look that up and make sure I spelled that right. Yeah. The Lananandek sons came in 3 forms: primary, secondary, and tertiary. All right? The Lananandek son gets their rating by the classes they take from the Melchizedeks on how to administer worlds and how to administer systems. So the highest in the class become, guess what? Primaries. The secondaries in the class become secondaries. And those that didn't do as good in the class, they become the tertiary Lananandeks. And they're custodians and take care of records and things like that. Okay? But Lucifer was one of the highest in his class. He was number 37 in his class out of
600, see, 700 is 1,000, I think I remember reading it. Page 53 is on anyway.
Yeah, it's on paper 53. That's a great paper.
Great paper, I love that.
So when Lucifer decided that he was getting greater in Lucifer's mind, what was the rebellion about? Lucifer developed what I call the big head syndrome.
Yep.
Okay, or the me syndrome. Okay, he thought he was so beautiful and he thought he was so great that he didn't need God anymore. Didn't need the Creator Sons. Didn't need anybody. He acknowledged that the Creator Sons were his father that created him. But he denied the existence of God the Father, the first source and center. Which is kind of crazy if you think about it. How could a Creator Son be a Creator Son without having a Father? You know? Good question. So anyway, when he went into rebellion 200,000 years ago, he took 37 out of the 604, 606, however they were, at that particular time, into rebellion with him. So those planetary princes who are assigned to a planet, once they first start getting human beings developed, we were evolved. We evolved from creatures, right? So when we get to the point where we start making the first moral decisions and that very first creature gets a thought adjuster, that planet is considered an inhabited planet at that point. And normally, that's when they send a planetary prince to that planet to administer the planet. Well, Calagasta was called our planetary prince, and with him came 100 beings, which were called the Calagasta 100. And he also brought with him his assistant, which was Dalagasta. And both of those were Lananandek's sons also, right? So when he went into rebellion, our planet, along with 36 others, were spiritually isolated, quarantined. So the spiritual circuits were no longer coming to this planet. If they were, we would still been able to see the angels come and go and all these other things.
It's the vision Elijah saw.
Yeah, the vision was reduced for the planet. Well, the spiritual circuits will not be restored until when? Lucifer is adjudged. And that says that in the book. It said the circuit will not be restored until Lucifer is done away with. As long as he's alive, they won't restore the circuits because they do not want the rebellion to spread outside our planets. Right?
That's good stuff.
Makes perfect sense.
My head is buzzing because he's doing a whole summary of everything. And they're just answering questions.
Yeah, I love it, yes.
So, anyway, that's how we got in the mess we're in right now. Now, to compound things, when Calagasta rebelled, he took 60 of his staff with him. And those 60 moved out of Dalmatia, which is where they were located, and moved north, and guess what they became? The Nodites. Remember the Nodites from the Bible?
Yeah.
In the Passion that said the giants.
Yes.
Were,
Hittites, Jebusites.
yeah.
All those ites.
Married with the women.
Yes.
And that's exactly what
And I wanted to ask that question too, but I was glad you bring it up.
Yeah. That's exactly what they did. So these beings that were given human bodies to come here took those bodies. They were 8 feet tall. You know, these were big guys. So they seemed like gods to all the normal people.
Well, they were big women too.
Big women too. Yeah.
They had for the 500.
50 men and 50 women.
Exactly.
Yeah. 60 of them rebelled. So that became the Nodites. And guess where the Sumerians and all this stuff, you know, you ever watch Ancient Aliens? It's so confusing, it's pathetic, because they got it, some of it's right, some of it's completely wrong. In the Sumerian text, they talk about the giants coming down and marrying with the local. Well, that was the Nodites.
The Nodites, that's right.
Yeah, that was the Nodites. So there's explanations for everything. If
We
you
want to
know
send him a
this
book,
stuff.
darn it.
When is he going to do it?
I don't know.
Oh, God.
So that's part of our history. That's how we got some of the mess. Now, what happened with Adam and Eve? Adam and Eve did not eat an apple. I just busted your bubble, didn't I?
Not hers.
Yeah.
Not you, no.
She did not get in trouble for eating an apple.
Not at all.
No, not at all. The tree of life was brought to this planet so that Adam and Eve and the Calagasta 100 could live indefinitely. By eating of this tree from Urantia, the fruit of the tree, they could live indefinitely. And why would they want that to happen? Because Adam and Eve, normally that comes to the planet, would stay on the planet to teach generation after generation after generation spiritual things, right? They would also upstep our DNA so that we would become more and more resistant to disease, all these things that we would have benefited from, right? But what happened was Calagasta tempted, not a little snake, like everybody says. They called him the snake, but he wasn't a snake.
Yes, we know that deal.
Adam and Eve could see him. The regular population couldn't because he was a spiritual being. And of course, Adam and Eve came to the planet as material sons and daughters, so they could see him. Mm-hmm. Well, he talked Eve into bypassing the plan of upstepping the planet with the blood of Adam and Eve and make it faster. So he talked her into mating with one of the local barbarian tribes, okay? And that's where Cain and Abel came from, okay? Cain being the first son of Eve, which was the son of basically the barbarians. And Abel, who was the son of Adam, okay? Now keep in mind, they had many more sons and daughters after this, you know. I mean, hundreds of them, yeah. But that's where we got in trouble with the default of Adam and Eve. Now, what happened after this happened? Well, as soon as Adam discovered that this happened, the angel of the garden came and said, "You have defaulted on your mission. You know, you are not allowed to do this." And she, of course, turned around and said, "Well, I thought it would help, you know, increase the population faster, you know, because they were supposed to have thousands and thousands and thousands and thousands of children over a period of time." Well, as soon as Adam found out from the voice of the garden, right, that this had happened, he knew that they would pull Eve from the planet fairly quickly, okay? And him being her mate, he could not bear with that happening. So guess what he did?
Did it?
He did the same thing. He went out and found one of the local tribeswomen and mated with her, and that's where the other half of the problem came from, right? Cain and Abel. So,
And the woman that he mated with died.
yeah.
And
So
so
when she died in childbirth, because she mated with a material son, which is a high order of being, so she died.
She couldn't contain the essence of the, I don't want to say sperm, but she couldn't contain that. That would.
yeah, that's
Yeah,
exactly right.
yeah, she just couldn't handle it. The human body wouldn't handle it.
And Eve ended up raising Cain with
Abel.
with Abel.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, as brothers.
Yeah.
One of them was a meat eater,
Yeah.
and the other one was a vegetarian. You know, and you know the story from
Yeah.
that. It's
Oh, yeah.
recorded
Oh,
in the Old Testament.
You do it not well, sin lieth at your door.
That's right. So all these stories you've heard of in the Old Testament and the New Testament all have basis to them. It's just they're a little bit changed a little bit because they didn't understand what was going on.
They just didn't have the information.
They didn't have the
No
information.
Exactly.
Yeah. So what the Urantia Book helps you do is straighten out all these stories so it all comes together as a big picture for you, right? So that's where we are with that. Now Lucifer was retained. Now when Jesus was on the planet, he confronted Lucifer and Calagassa and Satan on Mount Hermon, okay, or Mount Ora. And there were two times when he confronted them. One right after the baptism, shortly before the baptism, and one later after the baptism. But basically, he said in the second one, he said, "I saw Satan fall as a light from heaven," and at that point, Satan and Lucifer were taken away to the worlds, the prison worlds of the Father. After Pentecost, all the rebel midwayers, which I haven't even mentioned, you know, what's a midway? All the rebel midwayers were taken off the planet also, and they were put in the prison worlds. So all these devils and demons that you heard about in the Old Testament and the New Testament were real. The midwayers were the children of whom? The Calagassa 100 were the primary midwayers. The secondary midwayers came from the children of Adam and Eve. What's a midwayer? A midwayer is a being just outside our sight that are like us, human beings, but do not have human physical bodies. They have more of a Urantia type body, right?
That we can't see.
Where we can't see them. Now the secondary midwayers can move material objects, can move, you know, flowers or chairs around, whatever they wanted to do. Okay, they can move animals around. They can do crazy things. The primary midwayers could do this if they were coupled with a secondary midwayer. They could do the same things. So you can imagine when the secondary midwayers chose to, with a mechanical physical controller, they could make themselves visible to human beings. So you can imagine all these old Bedouins sitting around a campfire at night, talking about things, eating their meat and all this stuff. And suddenly this ugly, humongous being shows up in front of them.
Mm-hmm.
And that's where the legends of devils and demons came from. It was from the Midwayers. Okay? So they caused all kinds of havoc up to the time of Pentecost. In Pentecost, the Spirit of truth was poured out on the planet. And when the Spirit of truth was poured out on the planet, they could no longer invade human consciousness. Okay? So that was over then. Now, what's all these devil's possessions and things you see on TV and all this about? That's the debased psyche of the human beings of themselves. Okay? They're not possessed anymore. It's their own mind going amok, basically. Insanity. So, anyway, so that's a lot of story. Now, let me go back here. What are your questions about all this stuff? What kind of questions you got?
When are you coming back?
When he catches his breath.
Oh, God. Yeah.
I wanted to cover a lot of little points so that y'all understand the vastness of the information that you're fixing to. Yeah.
Well, I wanted you to come because I have been teaching on it for a few years, and my name may still be on the list for Urantia Book studies out of Chicago and the whole nine. And I wanted to reiterate and start teaching more about it, and again because I know it's a lot that it's amazing. I teach all the time that the King James Bible doesn't talk nothing about 18 years where Jesus was, where every day of his life in Urantia is documented.
Yeah, his trip to Rome,
The dates are included too.
Yeah, the dates.
Which are very, very
the birth dates, and brothers and sisters' names, and because we're dealing with men that wrote the King James Bible that wasn't weren't believers anyway. They were just making money.
Yeah.
So I wanted to make sure that we got you to come in, and like I said, as authors, we can get together. We're gonna make it happen. Very serious. Yeah.
If we could plan to come back maybe once a month, such a drive. Once a month even or something like that.
Tequila.
Decula, really.
Yeah,
I don't know why people say Decula, actually, because it's Dacula.
From the hour and 40 minutes to get here.
Oh my.
Yeah,
That's on the other side of what?
Yeah.
Well, actually, Buford is close by, Hog Mountain is close by, and then Brazelton.
We're
you have to go through Lawrenceville to get to.
It's about 20 miles outside the other side of 285.
Okay.
So you're close to the Mall of Georgia.
Yeah, we are actually. Yeah.
They said it was 57 miles on the thing to get here.
Yeah.
This is not.
So you're close to Chateau Elon.
Oh
yeah,
yeah,
we are. I go
Just
to
up street
Johnson's Pharmacy up there.
Wonderful.
I've been trying to get up there.
Yes, you have to rely on
So are there any questions that just are driving you crazy that you want to ask about?
I'm going to answer your question too, about your friend that passed. When you get to the mansion world, it's not perfect. It's so much better that it seems like heaven. But that we still have to progress because we're not perfect beings. So the whole evolutionary process is perfecting yourself. And everything, all the angels that assist us and everything, it's to help us grow so that we can ascend and be, and be really servants of God and be really, doing God's will all the time. But the Urantia, the first mansion world, they did the things they don't have, or they don't have earthquakes, they don't have natural disasters there. So it's a place that people don't have to be afraid of a lot of things. It's a more peaceful place, but we still have to progress.
They're called
still have to learn.
Architectural worlds because they're perfect. They're built.
That's why there's no natural disasters there. They're totally different worlds. They're not like the Earth where we have all these stuff.
Still has trees and rivers and plants and animals and all that, but it's been created like a perfect sphere. And the other thing is the mark, what they call the mark of the beast in the New Testament. They mention that in the Urantia Book too. And it takes many people going through all 7 of the mansion worlds before they totally remove that mark of the beast. And what is that? That's our barbaric tendencies, the things that keeps us from loving one another as brothers and sisters. All these things that come in.
Yeah, all the negative things that we do, and sometimes don't mean to, but they come so spontaneously because of our surroundings, or we are in the process. Once you really receive the Lord, we're in the process of purification, and sometimes we're not proud of what we do, and we don't want to do it again. We didn't go ahead and do it again. So, but when you get to the mansion worlds, it's
A cleansing.
it is a cleansing, and that we continue to go through the different levels of the mansion world cleansing. I just get chills. I'm like,
So when they're there, do they have like job assignments that they have to
Everybody
do?
has jobs.
yes, everybody has.
But not like our earthly
No,
job.
no, we have to
Nothing
go.
like
and
They
apply
have
for
a different kind of.
Yeah. Let me tell you, give you a
That's
good
a good
example.
question, actually. Yeah.
When we live on this earth, we live under prejudices. All kinds of prejudices, right? We're prejudiced against other religions, right? We're prejudiced against people that are different than we are, right?
It can be in a
We're-
different town. It
different
can be a
town.
country town. instead of
Sexual
a-
preference. We're prejudiced
Yeah,
against
yeah.
that, right? We're prejudiced against race. For years, the white race hated the black race. The black race hated the white race. Now we're all coming together. You want to know how well we're coming together? Look at how. Yeah.
And that's another thing, one of the things that we do is they have university, they have Melchizedek University sphere, and so we have to, we have all kinds of opportunities to grow. Their intention is for us to grow more spiritual, so we have all kinds of opportunities, and you can stay as long as you want on one particular.
Yeah, you can plant one bit sphere before
Yeah.
you go to the next one.
There's no
Interesting
pressure to
thing.
move on.
If you're
but it's
spiritually-
set within you,
If you're spiritually above those other beings when you get to the mansion worlds, you stay there for 10 days. Then they reevaluate you and you go on to the next sphere because it's a higher spiritual sphere. And if you don't settle in there, another 10 days, they'll send you on to the next one. And they'll keep sending you on every 10 days until you stop at the one where you're spiritually even with that sphere. Now, you think you skip over those spheres? No, you don't. Because what's your first job when you get there? You're sent back to those spheres to teach those coming behind you. So we all experience all the spheres all the way up. But you may have your residence on one that's totally different. And you'll just travel back and forth to teach those coming behind you.
So we're always growing. I mean, there's no stagnation there.
No
we're always-
stagnation.
And you don't get away with anything. Right?
And the companions that we have there are very loving and kind and supportive. So we have we're always around people, around
Beings.
yeah. not people, but beings, they're there to help us because they are looking to ascend also. They're the ascending beings and the descending beings, which the sons of God that he mentioned are the descending beings that are coming down here to help us, and that's part of what the
plan, the
It's
pass
the
each
plan,
other.
yeah.
The descending sons of God teach those coming down to the planet, right? That gives them the right to eventually go back up and find God the Father themselves, right? The ascending sons start out as mortals, and we go ascending all the way to paradise. Now, is this a short trip?
No, it takes billions of years. It's
Yeah.
talking about billions of years, millions and billions of years. So he's just done an outline, of everything. But it takes time, and we're in no hurry because it's eternity.
Yeah.
There's nobody pushing you to reach a certain level. It's within you, and it's how quickly you grow and you desire to know God. Really,
Another
to be-
interesting point, David, when you mentioned Lucifer, one of the points which Lucifer disagreed with was how much time was spent on the mortals teaching them the administration and
Had
everything.
attitude, had much attitude about that.
Yeah, he did, because he didn't like the fact that these mortals were getting all this attention.
That's what Psalms 8 said. What is man that thou art mindful of him?
Yeah.
You made him a little lower than the angels.
Yeah.
Yeah, this week. Same concepts, but different bodies, different formations of bodies. And
It
stuff,
is.
yeah. So rich, so rich, so rich,
it's
rich,
so
rich.
So when they're once they get to the mansion worlds,
Right.
are they allowed to come back
To
to
Earth.
Earth?
No.
To visit?
No. Not for
Is there like
thousand years.
Is there like a veil or window that they can kind of go to spot check every now and then?
Well,
We
that's
don't know that.
reflectivity may allow you to see that, to experience that, but you're not physical. I mean, you're
You're
not.
not physically
Not
able to
physical,
go.
Yeah.
but
You,
that
the
will
Mirage
happen,
body cannot come
Right.
back to the planet where you.
that will only happen like through a dream or vision, I would
Yeah.
say.
Yeah. Now, I'm going to upset everybody now.
Upset us.
You want to
Okay.
you want to really be upset? You know, all these, the way I know this is a fact, during the revealing of the Urantia book, Dr. Sadler, the one who was involved in the revealing of the Urantia book,
Tell us about that. I know about it, but I want them to hear about it.
and Thurston, what was Thurston's last name? I can't remember. He was a magician. But on the weekends, for fun, they would go out and disprove psychics. Okay, they'd go to these revealing sessions and all this. And they would go in and prove that they were totally wrong. It was all false. And that's what I wanted to mention. When you leave the mansion world, you have no communication back with your loved ones. It's just not allowed. Why would that be? Because if you had communication with your loved ones, what would you do? You'd want to tell them everything that was going on in the mansion worlds, how wonderful it is. And so, what would you cause? You would cause them to want to go, get rid of themselves to get to the mansion worlds. And that's one of the reasons they don't allow us to come back for 1,000 years, because all your relatives will have passed on and gone on. So, if you watch these TV shows and these guys are doing this strange writing and telling you that they're talking to your grandfather or grandmother and they got lots of information about you and all this, don't you believe it? You know,
That's right.
there's been too many of them that's been shown as charlatans, and no one has a connection to the next world except who? The angels, right? And the angels are not going to tell you that.
That's right. They're one-track minded.
Yeah, they will not. They are there to benefit you, and they know that that would not benefit you. Now, what makes people think that they talk to their grandmother or mother or father and all this stuff after they pass? They see visions of them. They swear they saw their ghosts. That especially right after death, right? What is that? You want me to explain it to you?
Please.
No. It's just you love
So
them.
to say you're looking.
You love them so much, you create division in your own mind. The human mind is a wonderful thing, And to comfort yourself, you don't realize you're doing it, you're comforting yourself by having these visions of your loved ones that's passed on, or hearing voices of their loved ones. People even take pictures and they'll have a foggy thing in there and they'll swear it looks like their grandmother or their brother or their sister or their husband or wife, right? When your spouse leaves this world, they have no communication back to this world to you until you wake up on that first mansion world. And they're going to have so much information they're going to share with you, they won't want to shut up.
Mm-hmm. There's a scripture in the Bible also says that you'll be known as you are known, which means that you make that connection once you transition from here to there, you'll be known as you are known. So what we hear is who we are, what we see is not who we are.
No, it's not.
Well, even when Jesus ascended, when he was when he resurrected himself, and he came in to meet with his loved ones, his brothers and sisters, and associates and apostles. He wasn't recognized because
They didn't know who he was until he spoke.
because he was in the Urantia form,
Yeah.
and so it was shocking to them when they found out,
It was Jesus.
that it was Jesus.
Yeah.
So we go from Urantia to Mirasha.
Yeah.
All right, yeah.
Urantia to Urantia. And then eventually we go to spiritual.
Yeah.
Right, our spiritual. We have three forms of being. We have finite, which we're experiencing now. We have Urantia, which is the in-between stage, right? And then we have spiritual. And once we reach spiritual, we'll always be spiritual from that point on.
Which is going to take a long time, but it's worth it.
Yeah, it's worth it, yeah.
It's just,
But this is what so many people are missing out on good, profound teaching. And like I said, I was saying earlier, I didn't get to finish it. That particular book that she has, one lady, she's a very, very wealthy woman, and she told me, she said, "Here, David, I want you to have something." And she gave me this book. Yes.
wow.
And she moved to Aspen, Colorado. And I took it home and just kind of tossed it, not really And finally, one day I was just inspired to open it up and start reading it, and I have been blown out of the water ever since. I have not been the same person since, you know. And so, but then since then, as you can see, I've bought 4 or 5 of them. You know, I leave some here at the office. Sometimes I have these other 3. I have them at home, you know. And so, but I just keep them around because it's so much information that is missed out from the King James Bible, which I don't even really read too much no more.
I studied it so long. I've got it highlighted and everything. Just I've
Yeah.
got the tabs and everything glued on, and I just I loved it. But you have to pick out things that you love that don't fit anywhere. They're just
For y'all's information, those cards I gave you, this address online, there are currently 8 different versions of the Urantia Book online on our site. It's the very first, on the left-hand side, it says versions of the Urantia Book. You can click on that and go to your preferred book. If you have a Uversa Press book, there's a version of the Uversa Press book on there. There's the original 1955 Urantia book on there. There's several different ways you can read them, and I've done them in 2 colors because the blue, when you're reading on a computer constantly, the blue background to me is easier to read with white tape or type.
Yeah.
So I made 4 blue ones and 4 white ones, so you can just pick whichever one. So you'll never be without a book.
Right.
No
All you
one's
have
ever
to do
done
is
that
go
before
online.
either. The books. Right now, you should tell them about what you're doing with the pictures.
Well, right now I'm working on an illustrated version of the book, and all these slides I've been teaching with for the last 7 years. I've made slides on that website is all the slides too. So David, if you want to download a slide of all the papers, any paper, you can download the slides, and it'll have all the pictures, all the type for each and every paragraph. Okay. But all the pictures are on that, but now I'm working on putting the pictures in the version of the book so that as you go through the book, there's an illustration there. It just helps you to visualize what they're talking about.
Like a panorama.
Yeah.
It is. Yeah, I used to take the truthbook.com pictures and I would run off copies of the book and then put the pictures in a notebook, and just so I could read the scripture and then look at the pictures. It just helped. I was telling him if we could only do that with the Urantia book, have this book be printed with those pictures, which we can't do because it would be against the.
Yeah.
But we can do it online.
Yeah.
But we would have to get all kinds of permission to. I don't know whether the revelatories would want us to do that or not. There would have to be something that was.
Yeah.
But when you with a study book with the pictures, it is extremely helpful.
And there is one online, the study book?
No, he's doing it.
Oh,
right
you're doing
now.
it?
now.
Oh,
I've
excellent.
I've got the
He's
Lucifer
working on
papers
it,
done.
We want to definitely,
Yeah.
gosh.
Oh,
I've got the
it's
Lucifer
amazing.
papers done, and I've got the 4 done. The 4 is the most difficult because this ended up being 130,
And see, that's what-
158
It would
slides.
take the book. You
130
couldn't
slides.
use it. I mean, it would be too big of a book to actually have.
But
it
online,
printed
it's
for.
easy to scroll down through it and
Yeah.
see the pictures and see the type. And
So since 1955, what has literally changed in the editions of anything?
the page number, the paragraph numbers. That's why I did it.
That's-
When I started teaching, I'd have people come online and they'd have the Uversa Press book, and the numbers of the paragraphs were different than the ones we were reading. So I'd say go to paragraph such and such, and they go, I don't have the paragraph. So I went through and took the paragraph numbering from the Uversa Press books and put in one of the versions, we had the original book and then the Uversa Press book, paragraph numbers right next to it. Because they change as you go down through the paper. And that's why I did it, so that when people studied with you, if they had a different book, they can look at that version and they'll know exactly where you are with it. It's all in the effort to make studying easier and make the book more available to everyone.
When we study in the morning, we listen to Meredith Horn, who narrates. Have you heard him? Oh, I mean, honestly, it's like hearing God talking. It really is.
What time did you come on?
He does. He's on
The erasure line?
He's on.
He's on the version online.
He's on the version online.
Let me show you on this one
Because
What was his name again?
his name is
Meredith Horn.
Meredith Horn.
And if you go to any of these, let me show you all of this.
And that's how we study, because we
You
read
see on
it.
our website, this is one of our 2 websites. You see this little says book version links. I cut off the book version a little bit. But if you click on that, it goes to the different versions of the book, and they're down here. There's 6 of them listed right now. There's actually 8, but I don't have the listing for the new one yet because I don't want people to know it's out there yet.
And that's under your ministry.
That's under that website. That's right. You can go to Fifth Ebical. The Atlanta Urantia is exactly like it. They're sister sites. They're exactly the same.
Wonderful.
Okay? But if you go to this version of the book, you can go to the index or the contents here and go to whatever section you're interested in listening to. And, you know, we were talking about the Lucifer Rebellion, right? So you can go to Lucifer Rebellion. It'll bring up the paper. And this little thing right here, see where it's got audio? You just press on it, and this is Meredith Horn.
Paper 53, The Lucifer Rebellion.
I love his voice.
Lucifer was a brilliant primary Lanandic son of Nebadon. He had experienced service in many systems, had been a high counselor of his group, and was distinguished for wisdom, sagacity, and efficiency. Lucifer was number 37 of his order, and when commissioned by the Melchizedeks, he was designated as one of the 100 most able and brilliant personalities in more than 700,000 of his cohort. From such a magnificent beginning, through evil and error,
But you can listen to the entire book
and
that
now
way.
is numbered as one of the
And the truthbook.com, I really love that website and everything, but they have different people for each paper, or each paragraph that read it. And sometimes, you know, they're from different, they have different nationalities, so it's sometimes hard
Well,
to
they
understand.
tried to make it international.
Yeah, it is international, it's very good, but it's hard to understand. This man, it's like, he's like this,
Consistent. Yeah.
you know, and he's just,
Because I've ordered CDs from University, Diversity in Chicago.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I got CDs and stuff, you know, 'cause I got too involved and I just, you know, I had to get pulled away for a minute because, of course, you immediately start losing sight on everything else.
You do.
Well, I tell you what, that is the truth. That is absolutely the truth.
You lose sight on everything else.
I don't cook sometimes because I'm like,
I know, yeah. And
You can ask her. That's all I do.
yeah.
he does, honestly. I'm very patient with him because I honor what he does so much. You know, I just
Yeah.
honor it so much, and I've learned so much. And we study together a lot. But he works like, you know, putting the different
Picture.
pictures and everything, and the different. The
It
book.
took me 4.5 years to do the versions.
I'm sure.
Just to put the pages.
Yeah, it takes a long.
But what
it
I
takes-
would like is that if you agree to come once a month, we're going to agree to come there once a month.
Okay.
And even
Come to our house.
no, not to date your home. Where we'll
No,
get
we
somewhere
have-
close near. We get a
Okay.
we'll,
We rescue cats,
get
so
a,
we have a lot of
um,
cats at our home,
small
and so we're constantly. I'm
hotel
constantly
room or
cleaning
something,
what I
small-
need.
Yeah, that'd be fine.
yeah, a small hotel. What do you call them rooms?
Conference room.
Conference room.
Oh,
Exactly. Yeah, to avoid invading you all's home and your
We'd
privacy.
love to have you.
We would love to have you in our home, but honestly,
Oh, cats, girl, them cats.
No, we
Y'all
actually.
would think we were.
We started out having meetings at our home on Sunday. And
Yeah.
I had a nice luncheon and everything for everybody. But then, like, one person would say, "Diane, there's something on
There's
the
cat
couch."
pee on this.
And we'd have the cats.
The
And
cat
we have kitty doors we have a very large back porch, and it's really nice. And it's all screened in. So I mean, they're safe. We have.
It's their mansion world.
It is their mansion world,
It really
and
is.
they have a really good life house. But we have kitty doors coming into our house, and then we have a front porch which have kitty doors so they can come. So the cats have a whole ring, and so we shut all those doors and everything. When we had our meetings and everything. Well, but
You still have cat hair in the
Oh, yeah.
house.
I could
could
honestly
clean-
I could not keep
Yeah.
the house clean enough for everybody
Of
to
course
come
not.
in because we have so many cats, and we have some cats.
76 now. Isn't it?
Well, we used to. We have a lot of cats that have passed. They pass from old age. They pass from diseases. Because when we rescue them,
I think we got 56 now.
we actually have 58.
You have how many?
58.
What, I'm sorry.
58
Cats?
Wow.
cats.
Yeah. So
Like
it's kitty.
5 and 8, like close to 60?
Yes.
I know, but
Nobody
really,
has a name.
I know everybody has a name. Everybody has a
Everybody
name.
has a name.
We always call them.
We know all of them.
Because we we get them at different times, and and so we name them, and sometimes some of them have two names.
Muffy, Buffy, Tuffy.
Some of them have two names because you get a cat new, and you think, oh, well, I'll name her, him Cosmo, and then later he becomes Cotton because he's so soft and everything. But the thing is that we've done it for years, both of us, separate before we got married, and but it's just a lot of work. We cannot keep the house.
Impossible.
Yeah,
It's
it is.
impossible to keep the house clean just between he and I, especially with him working on the book and lot and everything. And it just can't keep it. So I do cleaning every day. So does he. He helps me with the kitty
First
box.
2 hours a day.
First 2
that's what
hours
we
of every
do.
day. We're after
Every
we listen, study. Well, first have a cup of coffee.
We have about an hour and a half study, and then we get up and do 2 hours of chores.
And then after that, he works, and then I'm still washing clothes because I have to keep all their bedding and everything clean. So anyway, I would love to have meetings in our house, but it's just
That's
just
not a problem.
it would offend
We respect
people.
that in the
And
whole
we have
nine.
people that are allergic to cats in our
Yeah,
group.
they be sneezing for a month.
Even my
Let
sister,
me
my
get 'em, I'm gonna
my
sneeze.
my
One or
daughter's
two.
husband can't come to our house. His sister can't come to our
That
house.
really got to be the big problem, because even people that aren't allergic to cats
Or
would
don't
come
like
in,
cats, or
and,
they're afraid.
but by the time they left, their eyes were watering.
Yeah.
And,
But the thing that we have so much room for the cats, they have plenty of space. I mean, they're happy,
Right.
and we're happy, because But first, he used to have. When we first met, he told me that he had allergies for cats, and he couldn't handle my cats because I had 40 cats at my house, but they were in and out. And I knew I would never get married again.
When he met you.
yeah.
And I knew I'd never get married because nobody would ever want. Nobody would ever want to marry me.
Oh, well.
My cats came from after I started dating her. A couple of cats
Yeah.
came across the backyard, and she was there. And you got to do something.
Mommy!
You can't. Well, he had vultures back there. He lived
Yeah.
on a lake, and it was a fishing area, so people were throwing they were cutting their fish, and and the vultures were there eating the remains and everything. So there were cats that were being killed because the vultures were
Coyotes were eating.
Coyotes were-
We had a mother that had 3 kittens, and the coyotes got the mother of 2 of the kittens. But
So that he became aware of that after we started dating, that this was happening. So that's what happened. And he got 11. So when we got married, we bought a house. We looked for a house. We told you that house we found that we'd loved to have gotten, so we could have had a separate room for our meetings and everything. And we just never could get a bid on it because it had gone into foreclosure, and so it was in bankruptcy, and so it was up for bids, and they just never put it on the market.
oh, I tried everything in the world to make a bid.
It
on
would have
that.
been great to have a separate area,
Yeah,
so we
of
could have.
If and when you ever see our house, though, David, you will be amazed at my back porch. I built this porch with the idea that I was going to have meetings back
Yeah, we
there.
have concentric circles on
And
the
I have
lower
3
deck.
concentric circles on the deck on the floor, so that was going to be a worship area for our
Okay.
meetings.
Yeah,
So-
we had big plans for it, but we didn't expect to have so many. Well, I had a lot. And not only that, when we bought the house,
And they multiplied.
well, no, they didn't. They're all neutered. They all
Yeah,
had their shots,
that's
everything. I mean, they're all spayed and neutered and everything. But the thing is, the lady that lived 3 houses down, she and her husband had lived there for 10 years, and they never got any cats spayed or neutered. So they had all these. When we moved into our house, we started seeing cats down at the bottom of the hill, in our backyard, and I'm like, oh yeah. So we spent so much of our first probably 6 months running back and forth to the vet, getting the cats neutered and spayed.
Sure.
Every cat in our house has been neutered.
Oh yeah, all of our cats are.
Good.
Because the whole thing is, if you're
'Cause
going to
you
have an
have
animal, you've got to get
1,000
them
of them if you didn't.
Oh yeah.
Well, that's not a problem. Not a problem. We just check in the area. When we get a conference room,
Okay.
and we'll make plans.
Okay.
If you come here once a month, we'll certainly come there once a month.
Okay.
Because I don't want this to start and stop. Because I'm very much aware of the book. I've gone through the book. I've gone through it, and it's just amazing.
It is just amazing.
And I want everybody that's in my circle to really know.
That's where I feel
Well, I don't
too.
want you to think I'm going to take place of you teaching.
Yes, you are.
Oh no.
Yes, you are.
I
Yes.
I
All the stuff. Look how vast you've gone. You've done so much. I mean, we have to come and get this goodies because this is just. I mean,
It's great to know.
Of
It really
course.
is, and that's why I keep doing it. Cause
so you can teach both ways. If you come in teach, when you come there, you're gonna teach over there.
there's not a week that go by
We're all
all that I don't
teachers.
get.
The more
Yeah,
you
but-
read, the more you share, and you're
Yeah.
like, you just want to share it with
Yeah,
everybody
yeah,
because
yeah.
it's so liberating.
It's so
you know.
liberating. Of course it is.
It's-
Because so many people. Go ahead.
Even after, we talked about the life after death,
Yeah.
we was at work one day and we was having this same discussion, and everybody, no, everybody rise together. So now I'm gonna go to work and
You got the answer.
I got that.
And the more you talk about it, and people ask you questions, the more and then you're reading something. Also, oh well, he asked me this question. I know the answer now. I mean, it's
Just this morning, I on Tuesday mornings, I meet about 12, 15 gentlemen up at McDonald's, and we had breakfast.
He's been doing it since I met him.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And every morning I get to teach them a little something, And this morning, a good friend, a guy I've known for years and years and years, came in and he said, I had a discussion with someone. I want you to clear something up for me. He said, did Jesus travel around the world before he started preaching? And I said, yeah. He went around the world with a guy named Gained and Ganad, an Indian man and his son. And I said, they went all the way to Rome. They met Caesar in Rome. Caesar said, if I had the countenance of that gentleman, I really would be an emperor, when he met him. So went to Alexandria, the school in Alexandria, begged Jesus to stay there and teach them there. And that was not his mission, so he didn't do it. But he went all over the known world before he started preaching and picked his apostles.
And that's so very true, because they won't teach that. That's not in the King James.
No.
No.
And the references to him from them, if you look at the history books, he was called the Scribe of Damascus. And you can find references to the Scribe of Damascus.
Awesome information. Yeah. So we're gonna set time and talk about it so we can make plans to come.
We listened to this one video, David.